Welcome to the Find My New Life podcast. I'm Christopher Lapine, spiritual liberation author and speaker. This podcast brings you inspiration, hope, and answers for how to live a modern, God-centered spiritual life. It will help you have a more direct, deeper experience of God, find more happiness, and live your incredible God-given destiny. You can find all my podcasts, as well as videos, books, and more at findmynewlife.com. So, let's get started with today's show. Hello and welcome. I'm Chris Lapine, and this is the podcast for December the 31st, 2022, the last one of the year, getting ready for the next year. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome. Today's podcast is How to Overcome Your Weaknesses and Flaws, Breaking the Chains. This is something that we all face. It's a challenge that, if we're honest about it, each one of us has it. No matter how successful you are, no matter what your journey's been, there are certain flaws, there are things that you're probably not satisfied about yourself. There may be things that are really weighing you down or limiting you. And that's what this podcast is about, overcoming those, moving forward. My goal in this podcast is to give you several things, several tools you can use, and a new perspective on all of this. So the first is, when you get done listening to this podcast, you will have a very clear method on how to transform yourself. The second thing you'll have is a way to regenerate and maintain your peace, your self-esteem, your self-worth. You will get hope and power. You'll have a new way to have hope and power. And I'm going to give you a very simple method to do this. I've mentioned this in other podcasts, but I want to put it in the context. I want to put it in the situation of how to overcome weaknesses and flaws. It really is a common challenge. And, sometimes we can go along in life for long periods and not feel any issues, not have any crises about ourselves. We can get in a state where we're just working really hard and things are going pretty well. But eventually, unless we're really growing, unless we're conscious of these challenges, eventually they're going to pop up. We're going to be aware of them, even though we may have forgotten about them, even though we may have pushed them down for a long time. When we think about things that were painful in childhood or early adulthood or whatever point of our lives, those are not things we want to contemplate. Those are generally things we just want to turn off and leave in the shadows and move forward in our lives. But the problem is that doesn't help us. That doesn't help us become really, truly joyful, truly peaceful. Because at some level, we know that those buttons can be pushed again. We know that there are triggers, there are events in our lives that will instantly turn on all the fear, all the anxiety, all the pain, all the sense of failure, all the low self-esteem, etc. They can be brought back instantaneously. That wound can be opened again and again and again. And actually, I think the only reason these wounds can be reopened is that they were actually never healed over in the first place. We just limit our lives. We rearrange our lives so that we don't have to feel this pain, so that I'm not in a situation where I'm going to feel that pain again. For me, it actually came up this week, and that's really why I'm doing this podcast. And it's apropos. It's good because this is the last podcast of the year, and we're all probably reevaluating ourselves. People have New Year's resolutions, things like that. So I want you to kind of join me today and be honest with yourself. Just because you have a weakness or a flaw that you want to overcome doesn't mean you're a horrible person. It doesn't mean that, you don't have much worth in the eyes of God. But our whole perspective really should be based on who God is. So let's think about that and use that the foundation today, and use this as the foundation every day for yourself. I really want to inspire you today. I'm gonna try to do that. So let's go. So build the foundation of the essential truths. Please remember, there is no problem that you have or personal flaw that is too big. There's no deficiency that's too big that God can't help you with. God can help improve the way you feel about yourself and can help you with that flaw. We're not talking about instantaneous perfection, but we're talking about making progress. And when you make progress, no matter how you feel, you'll begin to feel a little bit better and more each day. When we run into these triggers in our lives, these problems, oftentimes we can feel absolute agony, absolute pain to the very core of our beings, where we don't think we are worth much. We look at ourselves and we may think, you are pathetic. You're a failure. Look at you. We may think something is our fault when it really wasn't our fault. Whatever that specter is that you're fearing, whatever that deficiency is that you have in yourself, remember this. You are a simple human, and these feelings are absolutely natural. You're not bad for having them. These feelings are valid. And they're especially valid if you had a horrible experience around this. So remember that. Your feelings are valid. But at the same time, I want you to remember that while all of these feelings are valid and true, that the most important thing to remember is that you are a child of God. You are the child of a loving, universal Father of all reality. God is a real person who has put His Spirit within you to guide you. God knew and knows everything that has happened and will happen to you. And that Spirit knows it too and is there to help you lead a spiritual life, know joy, and help others, no matter what problems you have to face, no matter what hell or agony or frustration you've been through. And maybe it's just that you're apathetic in general about life. That might be your flaw or your weakness. Lack of energy, lack of involvement or interest or passion or excitement about anything. It doesn't matter what it is. God is going to move you to the life you were meant to live. He created you for a reason. There's an astounding plan ahead of you. There's an astounding destiny. You have a truly unique role to play now and for eternity if you choose it. And God's going to do everything to help you choose it. This is not dependent on a group. It's not dependent on a church, a government, a race, a nation, anything. It's between you and God. All it requires, the thing I'm asking you today, is to please open your mind and believe with a complete full heart. Believe that you are a child of God, a loving divine parent, and we are all sisters and brothers. He has an astounding, unbelievable destiny that you can't even imagine on this earth and in the future. And whatever you're facing, whatever pain, whatever failure, whatever pattern He can help you make progress. And that progress is going to begin to lessen the pain, lessen whatever you're feeling, and replace it with joy, with peace, and confidence, and power, and unending hope for the future. It's a process. So please remember, whatever pain you are in, that He is going to help you. And I want to give you an example of how I'm feeling this week and what really triggered this. And so I don't want to give you too many personal details, but I'll just keep it general, but I think you'll get the idea. I had something happen to me this week in my dealings with other people. And this thing that happened made me feel so low, made me feel so undeveloped and worthless and pathetic and humiliated that it brought me right back to so much of that childhood pain. And the only thing I could think of in the moment was, what is wrong with me? Why can't I get over this? Why can't I? I've been dealing with this challenge for years and years and decades and decades. I've made a little bit of challenge, but still, there are certain events that can happen with others that bring me to my knees. And this week, I'm telling you, I hit total agony, depression, self-esteem. I just felt absolutely worthless and pathetic. Pathetic is the word for it. So I don't want to weigh you down with what's going on with me, but you may have felt some of these things before. You may have even felt worse. But at some level, I want you to understand that whatever you're going through, that it can be alleviated completely. And the reason I know this is that there are no limitations with God. God is going to transform you, and God is going to transform me. What we have to do is put out the effort to be transformed. So, as I'm going through this podcast, in a way, I'm doing this podcast for myself as well as I go forward. But know this, you are a child of a loving, universal Heavenly Father. God is not owned by any religion. God is within you and will help you every day as you make the effort. And God will help you every day. There are things that I can remember that were huge challenges for me that brought me pain and fear, but now they're not. Now I've overcome them over the years through trust in God. And I can tell you, I am absolutely determined to grow and overcome this flaw within myself that brought me so much pain this week. I promise you that. I'm going to try for that. I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to give up. And I want to encourage you to do the same. Whatever you're thinking, whatever pain you're going through. But just because God is the ultimate power and will bring you peace, assurance, and security, this doesn't mean that you should give up everything else you're trying. So if you're seeing a psychologist or a psychiatrist, you're talking to friends, whatever you're doing, you're exercising, there is no substitute for these things. God asks us to try and do what we can to alleviate the pain, to meet our challenges, and He will fill in the gaps and help us. And ultimately, through your growth, through your experience of God, you may find that some of the things you were doing before aren't effective anymore, and you can not and let go of those. You may be able to let go of some of these things, but that's between you and God. But remember, whatever pain you're facing, whatever problem, my friend, that God within is going to help you overcome it. I want you to feel the absolute truth. Feel the stunning, hopeful, wonderful truth that you are a child of the very creator of the entire universe, and he has put a piece of himself in you to guide you. That Spirit of God. God is listening to you all the time, feeling you, watching you, helping you through your life in this very moment of you listening to this podcast. He is going to help you, period. He's going to unlock it. You're going to make some progress if you try. Don't expect instantaneous progress. Don't expect fireworks. You might get that, but it's generally going to be a slower process. So you want to take that time. So let's go through this together, and I want to encourage you with a process. I want to encourage you because you and I are a sister or a brother, and we're on this journey together, and we're going to hit challenges over and over again. But remember, the more we try, even if you try just a little, you're going to make progress. It's like making a muscle stronger. So you might not be able to go for long walks because your muscles aren't strong enough. But if you go for a little walk every day, just a little, what you will get is the satisfaction after that, satisfaction of the feeling of it, of making an effort, and the next time you're going to see a little bit of progress. And I think the analogy is very good. When I go in the summertime, I like to go backpacking, and in the winter, my weight goes up. I'm not as strong. But what I start to do is I go on these little hikes. I might go for 3 miles, might go for 6 miles. But what starts to happen is I do a little bit more each week. I start to put on a heavier pack. And then by the time I go backpacking, and I like to go in Colorado and climb 14,000-foot peaks and have lots of fun, by the time I go, I am usually able to shuffle my feet pretty quickly with a 65-pound pack for about 6 miles straight. I can do a very slow jog. And the only reason I can do that is because I have steadily made myself stronger, steadily tried. And that's exactly what's going to happen to you and me with the personal challenges that we have. We can be very, very strong, but we've got to let God take you along. So, my friend, it is absolutely possible. In fact, it really is the purpose of life. The purpose of your life is to grow no matter what pain or agony you are in. Trust in the process. Trust in the things that God is going to show you. And here is what you want to do. When you are feeling pain or fear or confusion, find a place where you can tell everything to God. Tell God everything that you are feeling. Tell God what you want to do. Tell God what you need in that moment. And you will begin to feel the presence of God. Listen, pour your heart out and listen. Pour your heart out, all your pain, all your fears, and listen. Find a time every day that you're going to do this. And this is a theme I've got in a lot of my podcasts. As you do this, God will make closer and closer contact with your soul. You will begin to be immersed in God. And this God consciousness will follow you throughout the day. So if you're maintaining that energy level, that embrace of God, if that embrace is there throughout the day, when you have an issue, when you have one of those scary trigger moments, you know it's coming, ask God to help you. You might fall down. You might still repeat the exact pattern you had before, but it's going to be, the anxiety may be a little bit less. All you want is some progress, and build on that. And eventually, God is going to help you with opportunities to grow. That means we need to develop a very strong faith in God. We need to accept the power we're getting that we're getting within. We need to accept the faith that He's giving us. And we need to try as hard as we can and then rest. Keep trying and then rest. And that will begin to weave together a stronger life. Be consistent. Trust God like a child trusts a beautiful, loving parent. Total trust. And He's going to bring you along the path. It's just a gradual process. Again, don't expect instant growth. I'm going to go back to what I experienced this week. I'm going to make sure that every day I'm praying for a consistent amount of time, that every day I'm listening to God. And when I get in those trigger moments, I'm just going to be conscious of God, but I'm not going to expect instantaneous progress, but I'm going to expect that at least I'm going to try. So every day, my friend, take that time, be with God, and maintain that awareness of God all day long. And when you get to the trigger moment, just ask God to help you and don't expect an outcome. Do your best, and then don't put yourself down if you don't behave or feel the way you should. Just remember that any effort to change will help you. Make any effort every single day, and it's going to help you. I promise you. But you have to be consistent about it and leave some time to be with God every day. Just remember that you have an eternal future. The nature of life is growth. Problems are the stuff of life, and they're there for a reason to help us grow. There is no reason that you won't be able to grow. You were meant for growth. You have an astounding future, whatever you think about yourself. And you may not like yourself at all. You may have been told certain things about yourself. Wherever you are, remember God loves you. Whatever you've done, whatever failures you've made, He loves you. Unconditional love from your divine, infinite Father. Always there. Remember that. He's rooting for you. He knows you inside and out, and He's going to help you. I promise He's going to help you. Feel that hope. Feel that hope within you. That's probably part of why you're listening to this podcast today. You are hoping for something to help you. It's as simple as just pouring your heart out to God and asking for help, and just take His hand, follow that guidance. That's all you really need to do. I promise you, it's going to help you make progress. So just move forward. Believe you're a child of God. Believe He will meet your needs. Trust Him. Trust Him like a child. And let yourself go into 2023 with this resolution to just pour your heart out to God when you can and listen. Ask for help and trust and follow that leading every day. And I promise you, it will help you overcome whatever issue you have, and you will find hope, a better feeling about yourself, and a better future. I want to give you an example of how this could be put into practice. I'm going to read you a very inspirational section from the Urantia book, From the Life of Jesus. That's part 4. Jesus was traveling with a couple of people from India on his way to Rome. And here's the quotation. Here's the story, the fascinating story. While they were up in the mountains, Jesus had a long talk with a young man who was fearful and downcast. Failing to derive comfort and courage from association with his fellows, this youth had sought the solitude of the hills. He had grown up with a feeling of helplessness and inferiority. These natural tendencies had been augmented by numerous difficult circumstances which the lad had encountered as he grew up, notably the loss of his father when he was 12 years of age. As they met, Jesus said, "Greetings, my friend. Why so downcast on such a beautiful day? If something has happened to distress you, Perhaps I can in some manner assist you. At any rate, it affords me real pleasure to proffer my services." The young man was disinclined to talk, and so Jesus made a second approach to his soul, saying, "I understand you come up in these hills to get away from folks. So, of course, you do not want to talk to me. But I would like to know whether you are familiar with these hills. Do you know the direction of the trails? And perchance, could you inform me as to the best route to Phoenix?" Now this youth was very familiar with these mountains, and he really became much interested in telling Jesus the way to Phoenix, so much so that he marked out all the trails on the ground and fully explained every detail. But he was startled and made curious when Jesus, after saying goodbye and making as if he were taking to leave, suddenly turned to him, saying, "I understand you come up in these hills to get away from folks, so, of course, you do not want to talk with me. But I would like to know whether you are familiar with these hills. Do you know the direction of the trails? And perchance, could you inform me as to the best route to Phoenix?" Now this youth was very familiar with these mountains, and he really became much interested in telling Jesus the way to Phoenix, so much so that he marked out all the trails on the ground and fully explained every detail. But he was startled and made curious when Jesus, after saying goodbye and making as if he were taking leave, suddenly turned to him, saying, "I well know you wish to be left alone with your disconsolation, but it would be neither kind nor fair for me to receive such generous help from you as to how best to find my way to Phoenix, and then unthinkingly to go away from you without making the least effort to answer your appealing request for help and guidance regarding the best route to the goal of destiny which you seek in your heart while you tarry here on the mountainside. As you so well know the trails to Phoenix, having traversed them many times, so do I well know the way to the city of your disappointed hopes and thwarted ambitions. And since you have asked me for help, I will not disappoint you." The youth was almost overcome, but he managed to stammer out, "But I did not ask you for anything." And Jesus, laying a gentle hand on his shoulder, said, "No, my son, not with words, but with longing looks did you appeal to my heart. My boy, to one who loves his fellows, there is an eloquent appeal for help in your countenance of discouragement and despair. Sit down with me while I tell you of the service trails and happiness highways which lead from the sorrows of self to the joys of loving activities in the brotherhood of men and in the service of the God of heaven." By this time, the young man very much desired to talk with Jesus, and he knelt at his feet, imploring Jesus to help him, to show him the way of escape from his world of personal sorrow and defeat. Said Jesus, "My friend, arise, stand up like a man. You may be surrounded with small enemies and be retarded by many obstacles, but the big things and the real things of this world and the universe are on your side. The sun rises every morning to salute you, just as it does the most powerful and prosperous man on earth. Look, you have a strong body and powerful muscles. Your physical equipment is better than the average. Of course, it is just about useless while you sit out here on the mountainside and grieve over your misfortunes, real or fancied. But you could do great things with your body if you would hasten off to where great things are waiting to be done. You are trying to run away from your unhappy self, but it cannot be done. You and your problems of living are real. You cannot escape them as long as you live. But look again. Your mind is clear and capable. Your strong body has an intelligent mind to direct it. Set your mind at work to solve its problems. Teach your intellect to work for you. Refuse longer to be dominated by fear like an unthinking animal. Your mind should be your courageous ally in the solution of your life problems rather than your being, as you have been, its abject fear slave and the bondservant of depression and defeat. But, most valuable of all, your potential of real achievement is the spirit which lives within you and which will stimulate and inspire your mind to control itself and activate the body if you will release it from the fetters of fear and thus enable your spiritual nature to begin your deliverance from the evils of inaction by the power presence of living faith. And then, forthwith, will this faith vanquish fear of men by the compelling presence of that new and all-dominating love of your fellows, which will so soon fill your soul to overflowing because of the consciousness which has been born in your heart that you are a child of God. This day, my son, you are to be reborn, reestablished as a man of faith, courage, and devoted service to man for God's sake. And when you become so readjusted to life within yourself, you become likewise readjusted to the universe. You have been born again, born of the Spirit, and henceforth will your whole life become one of victorious accomplishment. Trouble will invigorate you, disappointment will spur you on, difficulties will challenge you, and obstacles will stimulate you. Arise, young man. Say farewell to the life of cringing fear and fleeing cowardice. Hasten back to duty and live your life in the flesh as a son of God, a mortal dedicated to the ennobling service of man on earth, and destined to the superb and eternal service of God in eternity. And this youth, Fortune, subsequently became the leader of the Christians in Crete and the close associate of Titus in his labors for the uplift of the Cretan believers. And so, when you think about your life, understand that God is with you every step of the way and is the ultimate power, the ultimate inspiration that will help you make progress. Spend time with God. Tell God about all your feelings about yourself, your life, your pains, your confusion, your apathy, lack of energy, frustration, whatever it is. Give that to Him. Let Him take you and transform you. Bring your mind and immerse your soul in God and go forward. I promise, if you're persistent, you will make progress, my friend. There is great hope. There is always great hope for you, for me, for our friends, for this planet. Let's go forward as the children of God. Let's go forward into 2023 with more growth, more success, more triumph, more joy, more happiness. So, this has been How to Overcome Your Weaknesses and Flaws, Breaking the Chains, the podcast for December the 31st, 2022. You have a great week and a very happy new year, and I look forward to doing more podcasts for you in 2023. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening today. I hope it helped you on your journey. Go to findmynewlife.com for all my podcasts and much more. If you'd like to contact me with ideas or requests, use the Contact Me link on that website. I wish you the best on your spiritual journey. Remember, you are a child of God and we are family. You could claim an amazing destiny. See you next time.